Welcome to the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. This time we're fly fishing. I'm going to try and give you a few tips on what I believe originated in America. It's called pocket fishing. Now, pocket fishing generally could be associated with predator fishing with pike, casting lures, or lures indeed for largemouth bass fishing in the States, where they'll be casting lures into a little specific area between weeds, between snags, might be in a little shallow drop off or a deeper channel. So in other words, you're not just mechanically casting across the whole of a lake or indeed a river, but you're actually fishing explicitly where one fish might be just lying stationary, and you're dropping the lure in there and working the lure in that very confined area. Now, there's two types of pocket fishing. There's that traditional type, which I would suggest is between weed beds and features, and the other one is, wait for this guys, between anglers. Now when you go fly fishing for trout in England, I guess about 80–90% of it probably is put and take fisheries. So guys around the world, we have to put trout into the water to be able to catch them, because there's not enough insect life or food life or fish life, if you like, in the British waters to sustain very, very big trout. They can't go around eating, there's nothing for them to eat, so we have to put them in. Build them up first and then put them in. It's called put and take fishing. Now, it's very competitive, and what you get with a lot of places is designated fishing areas. So let's say you've got some small lakes. I'm here at Frensham Trout Fishery, which is in Surrey. I've come over just to do this because it's an ideal miniaturised, if you like. It's like a little miniature version of a larger fishery, and it's got all those features that you could want as well. That's good for fly fishermen, hone up your casting skills, and more important, you've got some good trout in here as well. Now then, all I can describe it is, if there is a circular lake and you have platforms all around that lake, then when you're casting across it, you might find there's an area that actually the fisherman can't cast to. Come into my office and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, now I'm going to sort of be drawing this upside down on a piece of paper here. So, fingers crossed, let me just zoom back a tad on this. I can see the piece of paper. I know you're going to see all the corners. Let's say where I'm fishing Frensham Fishery, let's say you've got the lake, let's just say very roughly, a bit of a bay goes around. Okay, that's your basic lake shape. Now, let's for argument's sake, you've got platforms like this, like this, like this. So obviously all fisheries are different. Do you know what I mean? They're all different. They generally have all the fishing platforms like that for you to cast out. The thing is, you're guided by, around the back here, these things. That's right. If you can see those, trees. Now, most fisheries, trout fisheries, if they're well manicured, will have all the bushes and trees cut back to allow you to cast out. So this gap here, so you can see in pen for you, this gap like this is going to be your back cast area. That's where the back cast is going to come. This is the water, just in case any of you out there didn't realise what that hole in the middle is. That's the lake, that's the water. So these, on these platforms, okay, are your casting areas. You're governed totally by the back cast. So if you're a right-handed angler, you're just going to send your fly line way back in here. This way is going to catch in the bushes and trees. So you're going to be confined to that, which means your forward cast is going to go out there, okay? Like that, your fly's going to land here. On contrast, you go the other side and you think, I'm just going to do fang casts around here. Your back cast comes about here, cuts across like that, fly lands out there, straight line. You've got to miss those trees, okay? You've got it like that in your mind. That's your area that you're tied to, just here. So you can cast anywhere in this area. So if you envisage trees around the back here, and I'm just going to use a rough angle like this, guys are going to be casting like this, and this applies, do you know what, this applies to carp fishing as well, indeed any sort of long distance fishing. So you're going to be fishing in this area here. That's, you're going to be guided. You might get 6 or 8 casts in there, okay? But just very, very rough, give you an idea. So that's your target area. what's going to happen a lot of the time, if you get a lot of anglers fishing around here, they're going to push the fish out into the middle like this. So there's a little fishy. They're all going to be sitting out there outside. They're well aware that that's outside many anglers' casting ranges, okay? So they're going to have a smile on their face like that. All these fish are going to be over here. But listen, there's places that the fish will also get, and that is what I call these pockets. Now, if you put a cast, I'm assuming you guys can see this here, outside of these bushes going this way, okay, that way, so you're on a platform here, there's a little man, he's there, he's casting away, and he's missing the bushes this side, but he's sending the cast sideways. His cast is reaching a whole new area there, like that, if you can see. If you're on the platform, there's a whole new area in here. You can't reach those, but you can reach between the two platforms here, and there's an area here. Now you can also, if there's nobody on this one, let's say you're fishing off this platform here, there's a little pin man, he's fishing away there. Depending on the distance the platform's away, you might be able to, if there's nobody on that platform where it's far enough away, send a back cast up this way, and your forward cast comes here, and you're going to go all in here. So all this area here, these normal anglers aren't going to be fishing, they're just casting straight out. They've missed that, and what's going to be in those areas? That's right, they're little fishies, the trout, with a smile on their faces. So there's my tip. These are the pockets here, like this, that you can fish in between. You might not be able to reach these, but all of these places in here, call it 3/4 depth, all in there, that's all fishy area in there. And that's what I call pocket fishing. That's what you should be looking for. Thinking outside the box, watching your back cast for other anglers, and you can even do a reverse cast and come in tight to the bank here. That's right. Why would a trout not be in this whole diamond area? Why would he not be in there? They're either going to be out there deep, especially later in the day when they've been hammered. You can't reach them, let's say, but you can reach these by sending your cast and different angles and watching your back cast where it goes in the trees and bushes, looking for those gaps. So there you go. Hope my little map has been able to give you some idea of why I think casting those different angles could get you that extra fish. We can only try. What should we do next? Let's go back and see if that guy is doing any good. He's probably still talking, probably to himself. Well, there you go. I hope you've learned something for the little homework lesson of my beautifully handcrafted diagrams there. But at least it gives you an idea of where most people cast, okay? And where you should perhaps be casting. And primarily it is watching your back cast and sending your back cast into a gap in the bushes, the trees, the bank, anywhere that enables the forward cast to go in a different direction than everybody else is using. That way you could be casting into pockets, remember pocket fishing, pockets where other anglers have yet to reach, and that's where they could be lying those trout. Don't forget, they're either going to be pushed out in the middle at the limit of where everybody's casting, or they're going to be pushed at an angle between fishing stages, and if they're sitting there quietly and you're the first one to put your fly through there, you never know, you could come up. And regular, you'll be using a floating line, 9-foot leader, fly rod. If you can see it there, it's one of Sid Knight's. I'm going to start with this one, though I don't suppose I'm going to be using it for too long. We'll give it a try. The Pearly Daddy there. Very famous fly, made famous by the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. It's brilliant for big fish as well. We're going to give it a go, going to give it a try, see what we can catch, and see if we can't catch you something by pocket fishing. I'm going to put a head cam on as well, here, because sometimes it's going to be windy today. They give horrendous rain for tomorrow, so I'm trying to squeeze in a 3 or 4 hour session and give you guys some tips. Head cam might just save the day and give you a different angle. Let's get a line in the water. No doubt you saw that drought rise and I dropped that cast short. Now when I do it and I cover a fish, I don't like to strip him really fast, but I do like to give it a few tweaks and then actually look for the fly in case it's following. And to change direction, just use a couple of roll casts like this, draw it back, and you can change and cover a different direction. Fast stripping, you leave the coils on the ground. Just make absolutely sure that you don't stand on them, because when a fish grabs that fly and pulls back the other way, if it all comes tight suddenly and you're on a light leader, you could break that fish off. Just make sure when you're in a confined area like this with bushes and trees that you look behind you and try and toss and throw that back cast into the gaps where the trees aren't. It's a question of watching your back cast almost as much as your front cast. But guys, fish on. I wouldn't have got that if I hadn't been casting away at that angle. And the fish took me really close into the bank there. Actually saw the flash of the fish before I felt the pull on the rod. Looks like a rainbow. Yeah, definitely a rainbow, this one. Nice fish, 2 pounds or so. Just nicked right at the top. Now this is catch and release fishing here, so I'm just going to show you very quickly and then I'm going to get him back. There you go. That, to me, is a bonus fish I wouldn't have caught if I hadn't have been using that pocket fishing casting down the side. Brilliant. Now we all love to hear that noise of the ratchet, but that's fine when you're hooked up to a fish. But it's nice not to hear, because when you do that, it does two things. If you're spotting fish and looking for new areas, it tells the other anglers that you've been moving around, and they'll automatically look up to see where you've moved to. You want to be doing it stealthily. And of course, if you hook a fish, I always drop it on for the camera. If you hook a fish, they hear that line go out, they look up, they go, oh, I might move in that place. And if you're moving around, suddenly you want to go back to that spot, it's taken. So I go into what I call stealth mode, which you can do with most reels. Just pop off the spool, knock off the little triangular ratchets. There's a little slot for your fishing line to go into just there. Slide it back onto your reel, pop it in, and there you go. Oh, nobody knows what I'm up to. They don't know whether I've hooked a fish, casting, moved out, or anything. They don't know anything, really, until it's too late. And that means I can change swims, I can play fish, and I just keep a little bit what's called rim control. My small, with a little finger here on my rod hand, I can let it just put a bit of drag on there so it doesn't overrun. You don't want it overrunning. And when you're peeling off line for a cast like this, I just keep this on there for tension. Just a little tip. It doesn't do anything to do with the fishing, it just stops other anglers getting involved in what you're going to be doing as far as moving areas, looking for new bits. You want to keep as much to yourself as you can. That way you should really catch as many fish, because I sort of shot myself in the foot. I said keep it to yourself, and I've told all you guys on YouTube. Stealth fishing is the way to go when there's a lot of public people fishing on a day to your water and there's a lot of pressure. Could just give you the edge on those fish. Come on, let's have another one. Let's get right up the side there. Watch that back cast. A lazy cast, flick it under the trees. And if that doesn't deserve a fish, I don't know what does. Of course, we don't always get what we think we're owed in fishing. It's always the next cast. This is the one. I can't fail to get a fly take on this one. Or even close in. come on, come on, come on, come on. I'm going to send another one down that bank on the edge of those bubbles where I saw that other fish. I'm going to go sideways this time, which you can do. Just watch your other anglers around. Make sure there's nobody on the bank. Up on your back cast, up on your front cast. And there I've got right down the side, there's nobody on those two platforms, but there could be a fish in between. Here you can see the tremendous amount of oxygen bubbles that come from the lake up above, and a pipe running through and dropping. It pushes not only fresh water into that lake, it's pushing all those bubbles of oxygen as well. And look down here, just creeping down with my sleeve rolled up, there is a fish just laying right near these bubbles. You can see there the bubbles coming up from the inflow from the previous lake, and if we have a quick look, there's one laying there near the pipe. Obviously it's high oxygen content, chance of a fish, so look for every little feature you can. Always look for those gaps behind you. Of course you are governed by where you want to throw the fly on the forward cast, but it's worth a go. Now here's an interesting swim. Right at the end, bottom of the lake, is what they call a monk or a hatch, which is the drain off point where it goes down. You know, when it's tiered lakes, it goes down to the next lake, and in this case it's the bottom of the lakes, and therefore the end is a side stream that goes off down the valley. It fills up upstream up here, and you think, nice big wide gravel area here to cast from, nice fishing bench. There in front of me like this is the channel cutting in the trees by the fishery to go straight out there. So you'd think, oh actually I can't get down there by the monk where I want to cast, and nobody is on the other bank. Now, if people were fishing this, if you were a harassed trout that had loads and loads of casts at it, wouldn't you be over in that corner over there? I think I would. How am I going to get there? Quite simple, because most anglers just walk straight up to the middle of I've got to call it a swim, an area where you're supposed to fish, just up to the middle. Well, hang on, that confines your back cast. Why not move to one side or the other side? For instance, if you're right-handed like this, there we go, so you see I'm casting here, I'm watching the trees all the time. If I take 5 paces to my left, put my shoulder right up against the tree there, I've pulled my back cast 5 yards this way, which enables me to get a bit more space up there, and then I can send more of a slightly left-handed cast. I'll show you what I mean. So you can actually see that a lot of fly fishing, you know, it's not really all about the flies. Like, well, I suppose like we talk about flies, the magic flies. It's not always about the magic fly. It's about doing something different, thinking outside the box. And that's got me that fish without any shadow of a doubt. So, I'm going to move on, especially with a net. I've left the net up here as well. And we'll see if we can find somewhere that most anglers won't be casting. Let's get my net up here in a tiny little pool. And what it is, it's obviously been fished all day. I've just come for the evening. Obviously been pretty hammered during the day. But I wonder, is there an angle that I can pull that fly or nymph through that turns the trout on? Let's get through the Amazon jungle. This one really is a tiny small pool, but I've seen 1 or 2 dimples here, just see very slight ripples there. They could be little brownies like this, little wild brownies, which are in here at Frensham Trout Fishery. Good fun to catch on a dry fly as well, usually late in the evening. I'm going to go here, I'm going to put my line, if I can get my back cast, and come along the length of the lake. There is a better platform down there, but it gives me a shorter back cast. I feel this is the one. If I could put a long cast down one edge of the lake, it might be somewhere the others haven't tried yet. Now here you can see the outflow sucks not just water down, it's sucking air as well, and that's the clever part about it. It's drawing fresh water, it's moving the water from one lake to the other, but because there's a gap at the top of that pipe that pull air in as well, that's why it squirts out on the next lake down all the bubbles of oxygen. A very clever method of keeping your fishery fresh. Would you like to tell me who was the irresponsible person that 150 years ago planted that tree up there? I'd better get my fly back, that's all I can say. Well, the good thing is, guys, I've got my fly back. Even better, I'll come back with more flies than I went out with. So that tells me I've fallen foul of the same back cast every other angler is here. So that's exactly what I'm trying to say. I've got to change direction. There's one. Let me just show you. Caught in the same branch. There's one. And there is, my God, that one's tiny. A plain pheasant tail nymph. So there we go. 2 flies that I've now got back. And I won't be using because they're rusty hooks. But it just goes to show you, I fell foul of the same thing I'm telling you guys not to do. Don't do the same cast everybody else is doing. So now I know where that tree's lurking and that branch is hanging out. I'm going to be altering my cast, sending it very slightly wide of that, which I don't think the other anglers might have thought of. Well, I've come back up the other end of that little tiny lake because I had nothing casting out that way. I did bump one off, I was tweaking away, bang, gone, really fast. I've come up the other end, but I'm just going to tell you, you can actually reverse your cast. Make your back cast, your forward cast, and vice versa. So you're just going to, instead of facing this way and casting down, where I've got all this undergrowth here, you can reverse it, and there's the big gap up here in the sky. And that's where I think there's a trout I want to get down to. So you just reverse it. It's not going to be the world's perfect cast. If you time it backwards and forwards and sort of shoot your line up into where your back cast is like this, you can actually, look at that, I can get right down where I think those trout are by reversing it. And you can't cast miles like this, don't get me wrong, but I've been able to put my fly exactly where I wanted to, and that's what it's all about with pocket fishing. Now here you can see I'm actually looking a bit like an idiot. I'm actually casting into the trees, and I'm going to do a back cast and shoot it backwards. But I'm trying to fire the line on the forward cast into a very tight gap in the trees, and then I'm going to let it go on my back cast. Oh, nothing yet on the back cast, but by the platform there's an inflow. Now, I told you about the outflow drawing the food off, didn't I? And that's the place the insects all get pulled down and the trout should be there. Well, hang on guys. For every outflow there must be an inflow. And these lakes are tiered like this, so they go from this one, outflow, well that's the inflow from the other one, and where that comes in, any food that's dropped down from the previous lake going to get tumbled through the pipe, and I know I can see at least one trout laying in a little bit of current that's trickling through that pipe. I'm going to creep up there and see if at least I can get it on the underwater camera for you. I don't think it's a catcher, I think it will spook when I get there, but I'd like to be able to show it to you so you know I'm telling you guys the truth. I'm trying to show you not one but 2 fish that are down near this bridge, and the reason they're there is because you've got this fast flow inflow to that lake coming from the top lake, the main lake, and those trout love that high oxygen content and moving water. It brings particles of food down in that little bit of current there. Bear in mind this is a lake, and as you can see, as soon as I put the camera in the water you can't see the trout, but what you can see on this weed are those little bubbles of oxygen. That's all water oxygen bubbles there clinging to it, so there's always a chance in this area of picking up an extra trout. Well, that should give you some sort of idea of what to look for, and just, you know, casting a little bit differently, the type of thing that can actually get you that odd fish or two. What to do next? Well, I think we'd better get back and see if that guy's all right fishing on his own. I mean, I've come over here to the office and left him. Bit of a dangerous thing to do, really. I've got one with a long cast in another pool, right down the edge. I put it in a gap up here and sent it down the side, but I've had to drop to a pheasant tail nymph and a lighter leader. They were just turning away. I could see a few of them boil behind the fly. The lighter the leader you go, the less you should pressure it. Just don't forget, guys, when you've got a fly line, there's very little give in it. All you've got is a little bit of stretch. If you're using fluorocarbon or pre-stretch, it's not much give anyway. But I've only got 9-10 feet of leader, that's all there is to stretch. But just take your time with it. Tell you what, he's going well. This is what you come out for, guys, this is what you come out for. Just try and think outside the box and do something a little bit different to the other anglers. I'm going to move the camera around and see if I can let this one first go for you. You can actually see this pool here is actually a little bit clearer. I can actually see fish moving around. I just see the shape of them. The lights change now, so it enables me to see exactly where those pockets of fish are lying. And you know what? They're not right out in the middle where the anglers have been fishing. They are actually top and bottom, in corners, in those angles I told you about when I drew you that secret map that everybody knows about now. Better get this fish in. Taking me all over the place. This is a cracker. Let me show you. Look at it, the hook's falling out. Look at the size of that one. Very quickly. Catch and release, let's get it back. Well, that's what it's all about. Pocket fishing. And the fly, my God, just fell out. It's here. Tiny little pheasant tail nymph. Beautiful fish. Now here's another totally awesome tip, guys. When you do those long casts and you want to move lakes or you want to move different stagings, always do a nice steady retrieve, just a nice steady wind, just like this. Let me show you the sort of speed you need to do it at. I'm going to throw a short one just to give you a guide, because even if you're figure of 8ing, which is this, even if you're figure of 8ing, there's a little pause in between it, I always feel. So when you're winding, it really is a nice even speed. And very often, we actually call them winders, very often you'll get a fish. So you've done your last cast, you want to move, just hold the line through your fingers and just wind it, pointing at the line, pointing right down the line like this. Very often, bang, you'll get a take. Another totally awesome tip, they're called winders. Last cast of the day is to do it. I got one right at the back end on silent mode. Let's put that camera setting on there. I haven't got him yet. It's been tough. I've seen much caught at all, but I've changed flies yet again from the pheasant tail nymph, small one, to I think it's a black Montana. Here's the fish. Just so you know, I'm not telling porky pies. Back in that one where I wanted to do the long cast. And there he is. Just laying. He's absolutely engulfed the fly. He's just on the edge of the current there. He's in the current. It's actually giving him a little bit more fight there in the current. Don't want him going in the weeds. Stealth mode on the reel. Come on. I think he's absolutely inhaled the fly. I was actually eating one of those glucose type booster biscuits, and I absolutely inhaled that when I had the tape. Quick look. Stop that flapping around now. Where are you, fish? There you go. That proved that that long cast I wanted to do along the side did pay off. There we go. Fish about 2 1/4, 2.5 pounds, guys. Let's get it back straight in the water. That's what you come evening fishing for. I don't want to drop the camera in the water. Let's get that fish back. Just let it recover there. So there's a few tips. Should get you on the road to success, hopefully. Fingers crossed. And away it goes. That was really a very successful little short evening session. Well, I hope you enjoyed those tips. Just a few tips there. Might get you that odd extra trout just by pocket fishing, thinking outside the box, putting your fly where nobody else has put it. Well, that's what it's all about. Thanks for watching the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. What an evening. It's beautiful out. I'm the only angler left now. Well, there's one thing to do and one thing only, isn't there? We'll go off and have that famous last cast. Thanks for watching. That's right, it's really naughty, guys. The last cast strikes again. It was actually the last cast after the last cast, the last cast, the last cast. It's now getting dusk. But it paid off. I had 3 other pulls as well, missed them. So you can advantage I can get it clear in the line when I go to stealth mode. I just bat the reel, spin it right up, and get all that loose line all totally out of the way. 6 minutes before I have to get off the fishery and they close. Talk about cutting it fine. And pocket casting sideways to a little depression in the bank on one of the other lakes. Paid off. Come on, boys. It's time for the last cast. I believe the words are, yeehaw.